A mystery is defined as something that is difficult or impossible to understand or explain. Mysteries can be about something as big as a black hole or something as small as the quark, the tiniest subatomic particle. A mystery can involve a person or a place, or something that may exist only in our imagination, like Sasquatch or a spiteful poltergeist. A mystery can also be about something that appears or disappears. Today I will tell you a story about something that disappeared, or rather someone that disappeared. I recently read a story about a woman named Connie Converse. I had never heard of her, and I'm thinking most of you haven't either. But she was a woman ahead of her time. And sometimes being ahead of your time isn't easy. There are many people that believe Connie was the first modern songwriter, playing acoustic guitar and performing her own songs in New York's Greenwich Village. She was a woman writing songs about hard times, loneliness, and life in the bar scenes. She wrote about her own personal feelings and experiences. And this was in the 1950s, well before other women like Joni Mitchell and Joan Baez came on the scene. And although she was a prolific songwriter, she never really made it big. Unhappy with her life, she decided to make a change after turning 50 years old. She packed up her car with all of her belongings and told her friends and family she was moving on to change her life. She drove away from her Michigan home in 1974 and was never seen or heard from again. So what happened to Connie Converse? Her life had started well. She grew up in a family in Laconia, New Hampshire with a strong religious faith. She was an excellent student, valedictorian of her class, and won a scholarship to a top university in the Northeast. But after only 2 years, she left the school and moved to New York. That's when she changed her name from Elizabeth, her given name, to Connie. That was part of her personal reinvention, top scholar to singer-songwriter. She was on the fringe of the Greenwich Village scene, recording her songs mainly in her apartment and a friend's kitchen. She paid for her living expenses by working for the Academy Photo Offset Printing House in New York's Flatiron District. She took up smoking and drinking, pretty shocking for her devout Baptist family. It wasn't very surprising that her parents weren't happy about the fact that their academically gifted daughter Elizabeth turned into smoking, drinking, and guitar-playing Connie. To say they weren't supportive of her music career was an understatement. Connie's only recorded public performance was an appearance in 1954 on CBS's The Morning Show with Walter Cronkite. By 1961, after years of trying to make it in the music business in New York, she finally gave up and moved to Michigan, where her brother was a professor of political science at the University of Michigan. Connie then worked in a secretarial job and then as managing editor of the Journal of Conflict Resolution in 1963, which she also wrote for. Following her move to the Midwest, Connie appears to have mostly ceased writing new songs. So this sounds like the age-old story. Girl moves to the big city to find fame and fortune, and instead finds disappointment and unhappiness. And as far as anyone knows, she was never married or had any close personal relationship. People that knew her said she kept to herself. Her only emotional outlet seemed to be in her songs. Songs like How Sad, How Lovely, The Clover Saloon, and The Empty Pocket Waltz. With these songs, she talked about her sadness, her loneliness, and disappointment in life. Okay, so she tried, but she failed, and ended up in Michigan working as a secretary and then an editor. And then one day, she packed up everything she owned into her Volkswagen car, drove off, and was never seen again. Family members said she had been depressed and unhappy prior to her disappearance. Her mother even talked her into a trip to Alaska to help raise her spirits, but it didn't seem to work. Her friends and co-workers raised enough money to send Connie on a 6-month trip to England in hopes she would feel better. Now those are some good friends. I don't know about you, but I don't think I know anyone who would do that for me. In August 1974, she wrote some letters to her friends and family saying that she wanted to make a new life for herself somewhere else. In one of the letters she wrote, "Let me go, let me be if I can, let me not be if I can't. Human society fascinates me and awes me and fills me with grief and joy. I just can't find my place to plug into it." Definitely not a happy-sounding letter. In a letter to her brother Philip, however, Connie included a check and requested that he make her health insurance payments for some time into the future. So it sounds like she had plans. Then she just left and was never seen again. So it was another missing woman. Happens every day. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. Far from it. Fast forward 30 years to 2004 in New York City. Music historian David Garland was hosting a New York radio show called Spinning on Air. He had a guest that knew Connie Converse from her old Greenwich Village days. Garland played some recordings of Connie's songs that the guest brought with him, made on those old-style reel-to-reel tapes. Two of the radio show listeners liked what they heard and began tracking down any recordings they could find of Connie. After several years of search, 17 songs by Connie Converse were released in 2009 by Lauderet Recordings. The title of the release was How Sad, How Lovely, one of Connie's favorite songs. Around that same time, David Garland did a show about Connie's mysterious disappearance on his Spinning on Air radio broadcast. It was revealed that Connie's family hired a private detective to search for her, but he warned them that sometimes people just didn't want to be found. And he reminded them it was her right to disappear. Someone also reported her name and number printed in a phone book sometime after her disappearance. But that lead also didn't pan out. So what really happened? Did, as some people theorize, Connie take her own life in 1974? If so, why did she pack all of her belongings in her car and take them with her? And even more mysterious, why did she leave her brother Philip money to continue paying for her health insurance? It sure didn't sound like somebody that planned on dying soon. Or perhaps she met with foul play in her travels. Nothing was ever found. Not Connie or her car. Very strange. We will probably never know what happened in August 1974. As far as we know, Connie is out there somewhere listening with pleasure to her music on one of her newly released albums, feeling vindicated after all these years. Probably not, though. She'd be over 90 years old now. But stranger things have happened.